everything you know about superheroes.
Nerds, and happy spooky season. Welcome to the Geek Girl Story Salon, where I talk to creatives from across disciplines and across the world about the art of storytelling. I'm your host, Jen Jackalone, lifelong storyteller and head geek in charge. We've got some great guests in the coming weeks, including science communicator Steph Into Nature and actor Belinda Bromelo of Hulu's The Great. So if you're not already following us, smash that like and subscribe button to stay up to date on the heaping helpings of brain food coming your way, courtesy of our partners fleetoffandoms.com and Ilva Publishing, my publisher. My guest today, like many of us, grew up loving comics, but as an adult got tired of the lack of representation for women, and in particular for women of color, in the superhero genre. So she did what any sane, normal person would do and started a comic company. But it focuses around female superheroes of diverse backgrounds. You may have seen her on CBS or on various Comicon panels, spreading the word about AZA Entertainment and her universe of powerful women. Welcome to the show, Jazmin Truesdale.
Hey, thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm so excited to have you because, you know, as I was saying before we went on, I've been kind of following what you've been doing, and it's great, and I think we need a whole lot more of it.
Do my best.
So, the focus, or one of the main focuses of this pod, is storytelling. So, I want to know for you, because there's different motivators and different drivers for people to tell stories, you know, whether it's to inspire people or connect or just work through something you need to work through. What is it for you?
It's like a compulsion. It feels like it's bigger than me, whatever the story is, and it comes in different ways. Like I could watch a show. A lot of times I would say I watch a show or a movie or something, and there'll be a female character that they just don't develop at all. And to me, I'll feel like that is the story. I'm like, what is her story? And my mind will start to wander as to like what her story could possibly be. And then it starts to formulate over like a few weeks, this whole kind of storyline, this whole character, this whole storyline will formulate itself, and it'll take like a bunch of turns. And then before I know it, I have a completely original kind of like piece of work. And I always have like a stack of notebooks of just plots, just plotting down books. I have like about 40 books just plotted that I'm like working my way through. And that has absolutely nothing to do with AZA Comics. But like with AZA, I have like my whole thing, and that came from the same thing. It was more like a whole situation where I just noticed no one was doing anything with their female superheroes at the time. This was like 10 years ago, before Wonder Woman, the movie, before Captain Marvel, before all of that. And I was just like, these women have stories to tell. And I wanted to see more of it on the big screen, not just in the comic books. So for me, I love film. I love television. I love the history of cinema. And I would say my writing style is like a film writer, because that was the intention. To me, the book writing was just a way for me to get the story out faster, because it may take years, or it just may never happen with a film, where it's like, oh, well, if I write a book, then the story can get out much faster and I can get to the next story. I can get to the next story. So that's kind of how like the writing and the book writing and inspiration kind of came from there. Answer the question.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because that's actually that's literally what happened for me with the book of mine that just came out yesterday. I wrote a script.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah, I wrote a screenplay, and it was kicking around LA for like a year, and I was like, I'm just gonna write a novelization of this and see if I can, get someone to pick it up, and someone did. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
I get what, yeah, the world of film is nice work if you can get it, but they're also very scared of original properties. So
Yeah. So I kind of, one of the things I did, I would say before I was a writer, I'm a business strategist. My background is business. So it's like I just broke down the industry. How does it work? Like how did this company become a company? You know,
mm,
every big company started small. So it's like, okay, well, what does this company have that I don't have? How can I get that for myself? And that's how I created like AZA Entertainment as a publishing company for AZA Comics. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I was getting rejected by these publishers. Well, let me go ahead and see what they have. How can I get that for myself? And then
mm,
before I knew it, I'm using the same printers and distributors that the major publishers are using.
mm,
And so before I knew that, AZA Comics was now like over 75 countries. It's available in like 3 languages. So it's like you start kind of building that groundwork for yourself to make it happen in that way. And I'm now taking that into consideration with film. So like Oz is now shifting into like animation, and I find that I really love 3D work.
mm,
I didn't. It was something I always had in the back of my head, but I didn't know if it was something I'd be able to do. And as a small publisher, you don't necessarily have the budget to get like big artists. So I was like, well, let me see if I can try it myself. And it turns out not only I think I'm actually kind of good at it and actually really enjoy it. And so I'm like going through classes. I'm like being mentored by some of the best people in the industry who work for studios that I want to work for. So it's like I'm learning that whole process to be able to create, hopefully, the kind of work that I would be paying someone a lot of money to do, and then I could create it myself, and then you have control over that creation to be
mm,
able to take that writing and create that visual in such a short period of time, and you're not sitting around waiting for the studio. It's like me, when I'm writing, the visual is so important. That's why I was like, I wanted to incorporate the action scene illustrations in with the traditional writing.
mm,
So now it's like I'm just taking that to another level, and I'm like, oh, I want to do an animated short now with the characters and just kind of recreate scenes from the books. And
mm.
I'm like really excited.
Well, no, I mean it is exciting. Like you have that type of brain that's like, okay, I see that, I'm gonna do that. That's what I want, and you just do it. And it was funny, like a friend of mine said to me, like, what I love about you is that you decide to do something and then you do it. And I thought that was a really funny compliment. And then I sort of realized how many people don't do that.
They don't. They don't do the research on it. Like they just was like, oh, I love that. But then I guess maybe they think it's too far of a goal, or
Hmm.
I don't know. Even me when I started out, I was like, I'm nobody.
Hmm.
I'm literally no one, but I just started emailing people in the industry just to pick their brain on how does this whole beast work. And surprisingly, they were totally willing to hop on a phone call with me and just break it down.
Mm,
And it's like the more I learned about it. Like right now, I'm just finishing up a certificate from NYU in television and film production, and it's like the more I'm learning about it, the more I'm learning the hands-on things that make a good film, the
mm,
more attainable the dream becomes to me.
mm,
So it went from being this very far off thing to now it's like, oh wow, I always wanted to be a producer. I never wanted to be an actor. I always wanted to be the person that was in there making the film possible. And I had the knowledge set to not just throw money at something, but to be able to get in there and work with the script, to work with the director, to work with the color graders, the editors, all of that, and just kind of learning how all those pieces move together. I noticed that it also helps my writing as well, because then it makes it easier to translate over into a script when you know how all those pieces move.
mm,
So one of the big things for me when I created AZA was that I didn't want to just take this property and just hand it over to somebody to just do. No, I'm
right,
going to be in there with them as like a co-production company making this thing happen.
right.
So that I can make sure that it's done the way that I envisioned it. So it's interesting how that happens. The more you take on, I guess, a skill, the more attainable that dream now becomes. So it's fascinating. I tell people all the time, if you can learn the skill,
Mhm.
get out there and learn it. You'll be amazed at how much more control you have over your future, your career, when you know what you're doing. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's amazing. I follow you also on Instagram, and I see a lot of the stuff that you post that I guess is stuff that you're working on in your classes, or
Yeah.
yeah, you're just sort of stretching the tools and
Just seeing how far I can go with this thing. I'm at this phase of my life where, one, if I'm writing something, the woman's kicking somebody's ass. Like, I'm just in that place. I mean, I'm in that place when I'm watching something too. There's a woman in it and she's not kicking somebody's ass. I don't even want anything to do with it. It's like, and so now it's like I'm at that place where I'm writing about women pushing themselves to their limits to see how far they can go, and just me as a living person on this earth for however long I'm here, I'm
Mhm.
just pushing myself to see how far I can go with this thing. Like, 3D work was completely out of my realm. I was originally supposed to be a doctor, and here I am. I don't even know. I mean, I know how I got here, but it was so many twists and turns, and I'm now stretching muscles I didn't even know I had, doing like photo manipulations, learning from like some of the best people in the industry. And it's like, oh wow, I actually kind of have a knack for this. And if it wasn't for me just trying it, some little $9 class on Udemy, like I would never have even known that that was a possibility. And now it shifts itself into AZA Comics, where I just finished a composition last
Mhm.
night.
Mhm.
And it was like my first time building out a landscape scene in 3D.
Mhm.
And so I built out this whole landscape scene, hills, streams, grass, everything. Then I said, let me sci-fi this up. And so I changed the color of the sky and the sun. I added glowing elements to the water to make it look
Mhm.
kind of surreal and ethereal. And then one of the parts of the class was like, yeah, we're going to throw this cyberpunk diner in the middle of this forest. And I was like, okay. So threw it in there. And then I was like, what do I do with this? And so I had a model that I got for a couple dollars that had textured. And I said, let me throw her in here. And so I threw her in there. And then it turned into this kind of storytelling element of
Mhm.
just telling the story through images and composition, and where you place her, how the camera is, and then how you light her as well, to be able to tell the story of this woman walking. We don't know how she got to this planet, walking through
Mhm.
this forest in this strange planet, and then stumbling upon this cyberpunk diner in the middle of the forest. And it's like it just turned into this whole thing in itself. And then playing around with, like, I don't know, depth of field, and just really kind of, no, just kind of really playing around with the camera in
Mhm.
there. And then I just got really excited about it. I just finished it and I said, okay, great. Now I have this whole skill set that I can use, because right now I'm in the process of doing the 3D models of the characters.
Mhm.
And it's like, great. Now, not only can I build up these alien planets that I have these girls traveling to, and be able to tell their story through still shots, cinematic still shots, but then I can also take all of my Photoshop stuff that I learned, bring it over, and then touch it up and really make it look kapow, to be able to put it on a shirt or in a poster,
Yep.
just kind of really have, for me, quality of what I make is super important.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like I totally get that. Like you want to it's fun too, like when you go to learn the tools to service the inspiration, and then the tools, as you discover them, will kind of turn it around and inspire something else.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, it'd be dope if I could add these cinematic shots to like AZA Comics books. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that could be
Yep.
something that happens in the future, not just for social media.
Mm. Yeah, I could see it. There's definitely, like, you're on that track, and I can see the train going that way for sure. Um, so so what has the learning curve been like? Because you started AZA from a place of not being in the arts at all, right?
Right.
And you were just like, okay, I have to do this. Like, how was that learning curve from where you started deciding, okay, I'm going to do this to, where you could launch it and feel like you were, like you had something that you could, sell and feel good about it.
Even when I put it out, I didn't know if it was like something selling. I felt good about it, but I didn't know if it would sell.
Hmm.
But when I kicked it off, I really just planned to have more of like a director, overseer, managerial type of role. It wasn't
Hmm.
until I got invited to a Wizard World Comicon like the week after I launched the website where they invited me to talk about AZA Entertainment. And I had like these veterans on this panel with me
Hmm.
giving me advice. And one of the guys, Dean Haspiel, does like Walking Dead. He was like, "You already clearly know what you want. Just write it yourself." And I
Hmm.
had Ann Nocenti sitting right next to me, who I intended to write this. And I was like, I think he just took her out of a job because I was like, oh my gosh, okay, let's see if I can write it. And I have always my whole life been kind of a grammar nerd. In terms of like just English language, any language, I'm very big on that. So I just started I didn't go off of any style per se. I just kind of thought about what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, and how I wanted the person reading it to feel. And then I went from there and I just started watching a lot of my favorite movies and really paying attention to the storytelling and how they developed, especially old stuff from like the golden age of cinema. So I'm very big on suspense and like just peeling back those onions and just layer after layer. I'm very big on that. And Oz is very much that.
Hmm.
And I got books, just got a lot of books. If anybody, please get the Kindle Unlimited. That's what I did. I got the Kindle Unlimited and I've had it for years and I just kind of use it to constantly stay on top of like my writing and just kind of read how do you write a suspense scene? How do you write a mystery scene? How do you write a romance scene? And just kind of learning the anatomy of a scene. And before I knew it, I was plotting this whole thing out, writing this whole thing out. And I had a book after about 6 months of just kind of focusing every day. And I ended up tapping into something that I didn't know was inside of me in terms of like plots. Like I say, if I'm good at anything, it's doing a plot. I'll give you twists and turns.
Hmm.
Love comedy and how like my type of comedy is like if you ever watch The Nanny or you watch like Archer, I love like the kind of intelligent comedy or like the kind of comedy that takes a minute to build up. Like they'll spend the whole episode building up to the punchline at the end. They've been dropping jokes throughout, but then
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
big joke is at the end. They've been building up to it. And I love how Archer does the same thing in an episode and will carry a joke on for multiple seasons. And I love that. And um I just kind of like I would say even though I'm very much sci-fi is everything though. It's comedy, it's romance, it's all of those things into this one thing and I can stretch the rules however I want to stretch them. I'm like, I don't know how they're going to go here and how are they going to live? Well, I'm going to create a scientific some sort of technology cube where they hit this button and all of this living space pops up for them. We don't need to explain how it happens. That's sci-fi. It's like I love the limitlessness of sci-fi. So that's just kind of how that happened. And then from
Hmm.
there, I learned about PR. I learned about talking to reporters, networking, doing that. Once I had the book released, and then just started like reaching out to reporters, just constantly every day, reaching out to reporters. Within about a year, I think I had like some new piece of press on me like every month. But it
Yeah.
wasn't until I looked back at it and saw, wow, I had like new piece of press every month, and it was like big stuff like USA Today and like Time, Vogue. Like I don't even know how I got there. So to me, I say when you're in like when you're on a path and you're doing something you're meant to be doing, you'll start to see things just start to kind of fall into place for you. When I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing, it feels like there's a resistance. There's something standing in the way. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not supposed to be doing that. Let me go back over here to doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's
Yeah,
kind
it's
of how
yeah.
that happened. And before I know it, I had built up a reputation I didn't even know I had. And just for me, I just focus on the work, just focus
Mm,
on the work, focus on the development, focus on pushing it. Because I had an idea, I had an idea from the very beginning with AZA Comics of where I wanted to go, how I wanted it to be, how far I wanted it to reach.
mm,
And I just feel like these past few years, I've been just building that foundation. And I feel like it's definitely coming to that place. End of this year, definitely beginning of 2024 is when you're going to start seeing the true vision of what it is I've been creating this whole entire time. So it's exciting. I hope I answered that question. It was very long winded.
you did better than answer that question. I got to shut up for a few minutes, so that's cool. Um, so apart from the obvious, which is, that your heroines are incredibly diverse and all women, um, what is special to you about the AZA universe?
I feel like a lot of times in life as women, boundaries are constantly being placed on us. We're constantly policed in what we wear, what we do, what we say, how we act in relationships. It's old. I'm tired. And I checked out years ago. Like I checked out from that game and
Because you can't win
been
it.
the happiest. You can't win it. It was never meant for you to win. It was meant to just keep you feeling crazy and controlled. That was all it was for. And I was just like, I want to create an entire universe where I have these women that do the same thing. They don't live by whatever that boundary is that they keep trying to put on us,
Hmm.
so that hopefully it can be an example to other women to just kind of let it go. Stop sitting out here trying to please people you're never going to please. Stop basically putting yourself in terrible situations because you want to be seen as nice. You don't want to be seen as mean. Being nice is going to get you in trouble. Being nice as a woman is how you end up in a situation you weren't trying to be in because you didn't want that guy to, it's just like it's too much. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. Like if being mean, if you saw me as mean and that means that you stay away from me with whatever crap it is you were trying to, then I'm perfectly happy with you seeing me as mean. I don't care if you see me as nice or not. And that's a thing. Like that's a thing that women will really kind of build their whole world around. It's like, oh, I'm trying to be nice, I'm trying to be this, I'm trying to be that, whatever. Just be you. Because if your clothing or what you wear or what you say is, if something as small as that is enough for someone to not have respect for you, they never have respect for you in the first place. So just do what you want. Just do what you want and just let that be. So it's like I tell people all the time,
Yeah.
I just do what I want.
Well, it's like there's that quote, and I'm sure I'm going to misattribute it, so I'm not going to try and attribute it. But there's that quote: "Well-behaved women rarely make history."
Right. Like,
And,
was it Billie Jean King?
hmm
And how she fought for equal pay in women
hmm
for tennis. And
hmm
I was just kind of like, if it wasn't for her, just imagine what women's tennis would be like. And even then, when she was fighting for it, it was like, yeah, she had people on her side, but then she also had people women who weren't really on her side, mostly because they didn't think it was a thing that they could do.
hmm.
They put that limitation on themselves. And I was just like, got to get out here and do that. And with the AZA Universe, I love love pushing the boundaries to whatever it is that these girls want to do. All of them are working in fields that are unconventional. They're all pushing against a grain, and they've figured out a way to live their life the way they wanted to live it, doing what it is that they love doing it, regardless of what other people said. Even with the way that I created their powers are based off of scientific principles and theories. They're not super concrete. And because of that, it gives me, I did that on purpose because it gives me the space to be able to expand their powers as far as I want them to go. So if I, for example, not Kala, let's go with Ixchel. Ixchel can absorb information from any book, but he's going to discover, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, in a direction of where her character is going, but it's like, it's more her power. There's more to her power than just absorbing from a book. Imagine if you could absorb the information from someone's brain. You place your hand on someone's head after they've died, and you can actually see the last bits of what they've seen. That knowledge, how many murders she'd be able to solve, just like that kind of stuff. Like, I thought about that, and I was just like, oh wow, I wonder how far I could push that. So, I keep their powers a little bit vague and more based on theory and principle that they discover as they go. Like, oh wow, I just threw up a force field. I didn't know I could do that. Like, because our power affects like electrical magnetic energy. There's so many different things that go on with that. So many things that controls. Just be able to see what she could do with her powers. And so, yeah, that just makes it fun for me. And it also I want women to see that limitlessness to what they could do and just kind of get out here and push yourself and see how far you could go. You don't know. I mean, you got Simone Biles over here doing like a dang on Yurchenko double pike that no woman has ever done. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Triple doubles on the floor just because like, why? And she's like, because I can. Like, just to see how far she can go. I was like, that's amazing. Just see if every woman just took a moment to just shed all of the conditioning, all of that, and just said, get out here and see what I can do. Let's see how far I can go. I mean,
well,
you'd be ready to think.
For her story, it's particularly satisfying because when she pulled out of the Olympics, like, it was a decision that she made because that, was what she decided was best for herself at that moment.
Right.
And she got a lot of pressure and a lot of hate from people and a lot of, oh, she's done, and oh, if she can't cut it, then maybe she shouldn't be there and she doesn't belong there, and blah, blah, blah. And now she's, broken a whole bunch of new records and has, more medals than any other gymnast in history. And it's like, oh, well, y'all can suck it.
Yeah. And it's like, it makes me think about, and I'm an ex-gymnast, it makes me think about all of the other gymnasts who went against their instincts because they were told to keep going when they knew they didn't have that last bit of energy to finish out whatever it was. And they did it anyway, and they severely hurt themselves. Like, one example that they constantly use is, I believe it was the Russian gymnast. She told her coach that she didn't have it in her to do this skill, and she ended up becoming a quadriplegic because she hurt herself so badly. And I was just like, just thinking about that, I'm like, Simone Biles is out here, even if she wasn't doing the hardest skills in the sport, it's like your sensory and perception in the air is so important that if you don't have it all aligned and together, you could really get out there and hurt yourself. And when you go back and look at the footage of her doing that vault right before she pulled out, you could see how she was like, what? Like, she was completely lost. And I was like, it's amazing she pulled that around enough to land on her feet and not die, because that could have been a really ugly situation. So to me, I'm like, all of those haters, literally, they just want something to hate on. They've probably never accomplished anything in their lives. Don't worry about nobodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's like, you have the what did my dad used to call them? The groundlings, like the people who like they're just in the audience where the peanut shells are on the floor or whatever, and they're sitting there, throwing the peanut shells, and it's like, can you even do a cartwheel? Shut up.
Right. Like, when was the last time you won a gold medal? Okay. It was like this comedy skit and it
Mm,
has Quinta Brunson in it and she won silver. Her
mm.
character won silver. Like the reporter is almost like trying to shame her and make her feel bad about not winning gold. And she's like, "What medal did you win out here?" Okay, that's what I thought. So she was like, "Bye." I'm so excited
Yeah,
about this second place. It was hilarious.
that sounds really funny, but I so feel that though, and like with Simone Biles, it was just like this whole story is just like the success of her exercising her own agency,
Yeah.
and
And it's very much shifted. There's definitely been like that catalyst that has shifted the entire industry. Because I remember growing up in the 90s, seeing a smiling gymnast was not a thing. Like, they all went out there, they all looked like they were about 11 or 12, and they all were looking like super sad and depressed and just serious. No one laughed, no one joked.
mm,
None of the
mm,
girls seemed to really even talk to each other. And
mm,
now just finished watching like the team competition that they just won, and it was like the first they went and congratulated Melanie from the French team because she's been training with Simone. And
mm.
so like they all knew each other, all the girls seemed to have good rapport, and they were asking like other gymnasts who were competing that day, like, who are you looking forward to? She's like, they're like, I really hope Brazil wins because they're like really great. And I was like, you don't see that. It's turned into this whole kind of like fun fest camaraderie, just go out there and have fun and to see where it goes. And I was like, that's amazing.
And
It's
I
amazing.
mean, that's where it should be. That's absolutely where it
Yeah.
should be. So all right, that was a fun rabbit hole, and I'm glad we went down it.
Right.
But I want to just for folks who don't know your work, who haven't seen your work, I wonder if you can tell me about your ladies.
Okay. So we have the Keepers. Their official name within the AZA universe are the Skari. They are the guardians of the universe, the keepers of the universe, and their job is to kind of keep everything balanced, keep people safe, keep things from tilting too far bad, because that's sort of the direction where the universe has been going. There has been previous Ascari before them. They've all been men up until this point, and they've been slowly getting more and more corrupt to the people don't even trust the Ascari anymore. And so the gods, who are the ones who choose the Ascari and give them their powers, decided enough is enough. And they're like, we are going to flip everything on its head. And not only we're going to pick more than one Ascari, because historically it was one, we're going to pick five, and they're going to be women this time. So um, it's this whole kind of thing where before it was one Ascari that had all of these powers. Now it's split up over five of the women as like a checks and balances in a way. And then at the same time, there's a couple of powers thrown in that previous Ascari never had. And that is something that's going to play a major role in a couple of plots coming up. So we have Kala. She is from the Gullah Sea Islands of South Carolina, which is just outside of Charleston. And her powers are she can manipulate force and energy, and that kind of manifests itself into flying, kind of a telekinesis. She can affect gravity around herself, around people, around things. She has bursts of energy. So she can absorb energy and then she also has to release it in some way because if she holds it in, she could die. So she can absorb energy and those things manifest itself into like these bursts of super strength, bursts of speed, bursts of energy balls, that kind of stuff. Then there is Adana. She is from Mumbai, India. She has super strength and she also has shape-shifting abilities.
Mm.
So she was like, I don't need a weapon, I am the weapon. So one of the things I love doing, which I'm like learning how to do in animation, is like have her like arms sort of kind of create I don't know, some giant cyberpunk gun, and she could just that kind of stuff. She's
Love
like
it.
a mechanic with no tools because she can just do whatever she needs to do. So she can also change state, solid, liquid, gas.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, and her thing is she's a mechanic. So she has like this super, because of her body's ability to change state, shape, and do things, she has an ability, this unique ability to understand how things work, especially mechanical things and how they work. So she has kind of like an engineering background. Then there is Fenna. Fenna is from London, England, or born and raised in London, England. She is, no, she is not. She's not born and raised in London, England. What am I saying? Manchester, lives in London. And that was a change that I made because I love watching this show called Coronation Street, and
Mm.
they have like their northern accents are so incredible. And I said, that needs to be how Fenna sounds. So she has this thick northern Manchester accent, and she is like this super tough chick. I call her like the 007 of the team. She's like ultra femme. She's a fashionista. She's a fashion designer. She's really good with like hand to hand combat. That's her thing. It's more hand to hand combat, and her heels extend. So she'll start with plastic and extend to actually turn into a weapon. So if you listen to her theme music
Nice.
in the AZA Comics soundtrack, this click of heels is like the bass beat for her song, which I absolutely love. But she has empathetic ability, like empath abilities. She can feel what other people are feeling and influence what other people are feeling. And she also has super healing. Let's see who else. There is a Maya. A Maya has super speed. She's from Seoul, Korea, and she can also open portals and travel to anywhere in the universe. The blink of an
And
eye. Then she's a realm hustler. So she basically is like a bounty hunter, but she doesn't just hunt bounty. She does also very unique covert ops type jobs for the ASEAN government. So she kind of gets because of her ability, she's able to get into places where they can't and
mm.
do the things that they need to get done. So that's one of her things as well. And then there is, what am I missing? I feel like I'm missing Ixchel. Ixchel.
Mm.
She's from Colombia. She's when she came here, she was originally born in Guatemala, and then she ends up moving to Colombia for education. And she's like a super genius. So she's a doctor. She does research in genetics. She's the team doctor because they all have unique genetic abilities. So she definitely supports them. She's super shy. She hopes to one day be as tough as the other girls, but she kind of handles like tech support, and she's also very mischievous. So she's a big prankster, and she goes hard with it. Like her character shut down Brazil's electrical grid for 2 hours, and like she just like she's big on pranks and stuff like that.
So,
And
so I'm sorry. So she shut down Brazil just for the lulls?
just for the lulz, like she thought it would be funny, and that's exactly what she did. So um she's also super petty. So like she'll do stuff like that. And Adana is a big instigator. So the two of them, when they get together, it can be real dangerous. So her thing, being a super genius, she can absorb information from any book.
Mm.
Um, she also can control electrical energy. So that manifests itself into being able to kind of like throw electricity and also throw up force fields. So that's going to expand more. I think I mentioned a little bit about it, but I think that's all of the girls. So that's all the main characters. But
Okay.
yeah, so it's like they're all from different parts of the world, and they come to Earth in order to, as children, in order to grow up to fight the biggest threat that the AZA universe has ever known.
Now, I know this is an unfair question, but do you have a favorite?
I would say each of the girls have a little bit of me in them. that I've expanded to what I would like to be. But actually, I would say my favorite is a character that's not one of the core five. Her name is Jeannie, and she is the girl that says what everybody wishes they could say. So she's Kala's best friend. She's lesbian. She's from Bronx, New York, and she's like Afro Brazilian and Puerto Rican. And so her personality is very big and she's very funny. And she just, because Kala being like royalty and not able to, and having to always be the diplomat and not able to say everything all the time, like, Jeannie will say it for her. And it can be quite hilarious.
You gave Kala an anger translator?
Yes. She was very much an anger translator, and just also in other aspects, like they just there's a whole lot of stuff. Like I feel like a lot of times Jeannie is the audience reacting to stuff because all the other girls know about the AZA universe. They either were born there, they're a part of it, they're aware of it. Jeannie is completely unaware of it, and she is coming into this as Kala's best friend, just like everybody else is coming into this. So the way that the reader would react to seeing something insane is how Jeannie is going to react when she sees it for the first time. So she's kind of like that cathartic release for the audience and the readers. But yeah, she's a lot of fun to write. But she's also pretty kick-ass too. Like growing up with Kala, she knows how to shoot, she knows how to fight. So she can definitely protect herself and others.
Yeah, I would not want to throw hands with a girl from the Bronx.
Right?
Wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I went to college there, actually. I went to Fordham.
Oh, wow. How was that?
What's that?
How was that?
It was different for me. I grew up in a suburb, so
Oh.
it's like, wow, okay, cool. But it was great. I loved being in New York. Where are you now? Were you in Atlanta, I want to say?
I'm in North Carolina.
North Carolina. Cool.
Haven't seen the need to move yet.
That's it. If you're doing fine where you are, why do that?
Yeah.
So okay, so apart from Wonder Woman, because she's meaningful for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
Are there other characters or writers or artists that you would cite as influences?
Oh my God. She is my favorite comic book writer. She
Hmm.
follows me on Facebook, and if I ever meet her in person, she's gonna kick my ass because her name just completely slipped my mind because I'm thinking about her so hard. Like, you ever have that where you're thinking about someone's name so hard that you completely don't even remember it? And Gail Simone, like, oh my God, Gail Simone.
Oh, yeah,
I would say that is
totally.
my absolute favorite comic book writer. Definitely one of my biggest influences and inspirations. When I got back into reading comic books, it was like during her tenure when she was writing Wonder Woman, which a lot of people cite as like some of the best writing for Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
And if she ever wants to hop on board to help me with the AZA script, please, I will definitely take that. But I'll say her. Let's see. There was this book that I read that I love the mythological lore that have definitely influenced me in the way that I write a lot of these diverse characters in terms of cultures and stuff. And it's L.A. Banks. She wrote this series called The Vampire Huntress Legend, and I highly recommend people read it. It's an incredible series, and it came out a little bit before Twilight, which is kind of what sort of soured me to Twilight because I got tried to read Twilight, just didn't click with me. The pacing of it, I'm very much more of like I need things blowing up and exploding page one. So it was a little bit too slow paced for me, but like I would say that LA Banks, Gail Simone, and Steven Spielberg. Those are like the big ones. I love the ways Stevens, um, the way he paces his movies. I love the way that he really adds a lot of heart to his movies. It's like you'll have this sci-fi action epic thriller that also has a lot of heart as well. And I love the way that he does it, because a lot of times when you're doing that, a lot of times the action movies are usually centered around men, and they tend to sort of throw the women there sort of haphazardly. And Steven seems to kind of like respect the women in his films, the way that he writes them, and I appreciate that. So I would say definitely Steven Spielberg. I'd love to meet him one day.
Sure. I mean, even going back to Indiana Jones.
Oh, loved it.
Yeah, Virginia Madsen, like her character was a character.
Yeah, absolutely love all of his work. And I just kind of remember during the pandemic when I really started getting into like, my mom says when growing up as a kid, I was an only child. So the television was my life. But I watched a lot of like Turner Classic movies and AMC and stuff like that. And so when I was watching it, she said I'd watch it like I was studying it, and I could repeat the dialogue back after watching something one time. And so I said, well, let me take this seriously and actually start, you know, learning about it and how it all works. And during the pandemic is when I kicked it off, and I just said, okay, found all of the scripts, Steven Spielberg films that I really liked, and then just sat down and watched them and broke down each scene. I watched how the camera angles were done, how those why he probably made those camera decisions. I looked at the color grading, the editing, the sound design, the scoring, all of that. And it really just kind of opened a whole door for me that I found myself applying to my 3D work as well. So, yeah, love Steven Spielberg.
Cool. So we're coming up on time. I usually end the show with a speed round.
Ah.
So we're going to start off with a couple of easy ones just to get into the rhythm, and then we'll get a little bit more.
Let me sit up.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Super salad.
Salad.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek.
Digital or analog?
Analog.
Supergirl or Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman.
Pick one character. No, it's fine. It's fine. I had to ask. Pick one character from the AZA universe that you'd want to have a drink with.
They're all like, what? I can't even throw that out because they're all like super insane. Probably Adana.
Right.
We'd probably end up in jail, like a Ozzy in jail by the end of it, but it would be a blast.
It would have been worth it. Now, okay.
Totally worth it.
So, all right. So now pick one that you would want to have with you at a table full of lawyers.
Ixchel, because she'll know their whole law system, everything, front and back. Like, yes.
Now, what about one that you would want with you at a high-stakes blackjack table?
Probably Amaya, because she could cheat for me. She moves so fast, they wouldn't even see her. I was like, yes.
And is there any character in the AZA universe that you would make an awkward excuse to not hang out with?
Ah.
Because it sounds like you love everybody. It sounds like you love everybody, but like...
personalities. Oh my goodness. It would have to be a villain, so probably Kieran.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to hang out with Kieran.
Yeah.
Because he'd probably try to get me in trouble and then do something stupid, then blame me for it. And I'll have time for that.
How can you have a good time with somebody like that? You can't. That is our show, you beautiful nerds. I've been your host, Jen Jackalone. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this chat, and check out the link in the description to check out the AZA Universe. The Geek Girls keep bringing the goodies, so for best results, insert in brain. Stay hydrated, nerds. Take care. Take it easy, and stay geeky.